Imagine living where daytime temperatures regularly hit 45 degrees Celsius. That's 113 degrees Fahrenheit, with almost no rain, no shade for miles, and a sun so intense it can burn exposed skin in under 20 minutes. Now imagine building some of the most advanced structures in the ancient world. In that heat, without a single power tool. That was daily life for the ancient Egyptians. And yet they didn't just survive the desert, they built a civilization that lasted over 3,000 years. So how did they do it? Let's break it down. First, you have to understand something crucial. Ancient Egypt wasn't really a desert civilization, living scattered across the sand. It was a river civilization, hugging a narrow green ribbon through an ocean of desert. Over 90% of ancient Egyptians lived within a few kilometers of the Nile. The river gave them drinking water, irrigation, transportation, and, critically, a natural cooling effect. Moving air over water drops the local temperature, and the moisture supported crops, trees, and shade that simply didn't exist a few hundred meters away in the open desert. The historian Herodotus famously called Egypt the gift of the Nile, and when it comes to surviving the heat, that's not an exaggeration. Step away from the river and you're in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Stay close to it, and you have a livable, even thriving environment. Ancient Egyptian architecture was basically one long answer to a single question. How do we keep people cool without electricity? Point 1. Mud brick construction. Most homes were built from sun-dried mud brick made from Nile silt, sand, and straw. Mud brick has fantastic thermal mass. It absorbs heat slowly during the day and releases it slowly at night. That means the inside of a home stayed noticeably cooler than the blazing exterior, even at the hottest point of the afternoon. Point 2. Thick walls, small windows. Walls were often built extra thick, and windows were kept small and placed high near the ceiling. This limited direct sunlight while still allowing hot air, which rises, to escape. Point 3. Flat roofs as living space. Many homes had flat roofs used for sleeping at night when the desert air finally cooled down. During the day, roofs sometimes had simple wind-catching structures, early primitive versions of what we'd now call passive cooling systems, designed to funnel cooler airflow into the house. Point 4. Courtyards and orientation. Wealthier homes were often built around shaded central courtyards, sometimes with pools or gardens, creating a cooler microclimate right inside the house. None of this was accidental. Egyptian builders were, in effect, some of history's first passive cooling engineers. Look at Egyptian art, and you'll notice something. Light-colored, loose-fitting linen clothing everywhere. That wasn't a fashion accident, but it was survival gear. Linen came from flax, grown along the Nile. It's breathable, lightweight, and, critically, it reflects sunlight rather than absorbing it, unlike darker, heavier fabrics. Loose-fitting garments also allowed air to circulate against the skin, helping sweat evaporate and cool the body naturally. Both men and women often wore simple kilts or sheath dresses, and many laborers worked bare-chested, since minimizing layers in extreme heat can help the body regulate temperature more efficiently, as long as skin is protected from direct burning. Head coverings mattered too. Wigs, headcloths like the striped neems, and simple linen head wraps protected the scalp and neck from direct sun exposure, the areas most vulnerable to heat stroke. And then there's the makeup. That iconic black eye makeup and kohl, one wasn't just cosmetic. Made from ground galena or other minerals, it reduced glare from the sun, similar to the black grease modern athletes put under their eyes. It may have also had antibacterial properties that helped prevent eye infections, which were common in the dusty desert environment. Surviving extreme heat isn't just about shelter and clothing, it's about how you live day to day. Water access was constant thanks to the Nile, and Egyptians were remarkably advanced at water management, building canals, wells, and later devices like the shaduf, a hand-operated device for lifting water, to keep hydration and irrigation reliable, even during drier months. Diet played a role too. Bread and beer were dietary staples, and Egyptian beer in particular was thick, nutritious, and lower in alcohol than what we drink today, functioning almost like a caloric, hydrating food source. Combined with onions, garlic, dates, and Nile fish, The Egyptian diet provided both hydration and the electrolytes needed to survive heavy sweating in extreme heat. Daily rhythm was the final piece. Egyptians largely structured their day around the sun rather than fighting it. Physical labor, farming, construction, quarry work was concentrated in the early morning and late afternoon, avoiding the punishing midday sun whenever possible. The hottest hours were often reserved for rest, shade, or lighter indoor tasks. This wasn't laziness. It was smart, sustainable heat management. Something modern hot climate cultures, from Spain's siesta to Gulf state work schedules, still echo today. Here's where it gets really impressive. The people who built the pyramids weren't slaves, as popular myth long suggested. Archaeological evidence from workers' villages near Giza shows they were largely paid laborers organized into work crews and provided with food, medical care, and housing. And they worked in extreme heat, moving stones weighing tons for years at a time. How did that system avoid mass heat casualties? Organized rotation. Work crews were divided into teams, often named things like Friends of Khufu, that rotated tasks and rest periods, spreading physical strain across the workforce rather than pushing individuals to exhaustion. Rest and shade access. Excavated worker villages show evidence of designated rest and shelter areas near the worksite. Food and hydration supply. Records and archaeological remains show diets rich in bread, beer, meat, and vegetables, enough caloric and fluid intake to sustain grueling physical labor in extreme heat. Medical support. Skeletal remains from workers' cemeteries show evidence of healed fractures and medical treatment, suggesting some level of organized care existed for injured laborers. In short, surviving the desert heat at scale required more than individual toughness. It required logistics, planning, and social organization. The pyramids weren't just a triumph of engineering over stone. They were a triumph of heat management over one of the harshest climates on the planet. Ancient Egyptian medicine also played a quiet but important role in heat survival. Egyptian physicians used oils and fats, like castor oil and animal fats, applied to the skin, which likely helped prevent moisture loss and protect against sunburn and windburn, especially in the dry desert air. Medical papyri, like the famous Eber's papyrus, document treatments for burns, skin conditions, and dehydration-related symptoms, showing that Egyptians had developed practical, empirical responses to the physical toll of their environment, even without understanding the underlying science the way we do today. When you put it all together, the Nile as a lifeline, thermally smart architecture, sun-reflecting linen clothing, a heat-adapted diet, a work schedule built around the sun instead of against it, and organized labor systems that protected workers' health, you start to see the real story. Ancient Egyptians didn't survive the desert heat through brute toughness alone. They survived it through engineering, observation, and adaptation. Refined over centuries into a way of life so effective, it allowed them to build monuments that are still standing 4,500 years later. In many ways, modern hot climate architecture, clothing design, and even work-hour scheduling are still catching up to lessons the Egyptians had already figured out. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe for more deep dives into how ancient civilizations solved problems we still deal with today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.